It is May the 18th, 2021. I'm Andy, and this is the Minorcan Mullet Report from the Golden Ray Rec Site in the St.simons Sound. And we are here this evening being hosted over at the Caldwell Residence on St. Simons with a great view of the rec site. I know that a lot of folks had some questions and thought we might have to take the opportunity. We're having computer trouble tonight, so that's why we're not having a broadcast. We're hopefully going to be able to get our computer back up so that we can start some editing again tomorrow. We're having a little bit of problem with that, but we thought what a great opportunity to have a live stream and be able to maybe have a little question and answer period, and also be able to take a look at the ship. Just to give you a little update from what we've seen today, it looks to me that they have cleared that northwest block that we saw that was blackened from the fire, that heavy soot. Looks like they've cleaned it. Maybe they've started the inspection of those items. We have seen a lot of debris that has washed up on Jekyll Beach today. We've gotten a report from folks that they collected a lot of burnt plastic, a lot of burnt pieces out there. We kind of knew that was going to be the case after seeing what we saw in the water past day or two from just debris and just bits and pieces of plastic, burnt plastic pieces out on the water. We knew that stuff was headed for the beach, and it's starting to find its way there. We've had a pretty steady northeast wind, which northeast is kind of blowing this way, and as that's doing, that's pushing all that stuff over to Jekyll Island. That's Jekyll Island in the background. That is the north end of Jekyll Island, and as that wind has been pushing that stuff back there during the day, that's where it's accumulated. Yeah, I know that some of you are probably kind of tuning in now and wondering why we're not bobbing around. We are hard fixed with the camera on the tripod, so hopefully we won't have anybody getting seasick out here today. We are bringing this to you with the intention of being able to maybe answer a few questions and let you guys take a look. And we'll talk about what we've seen for the past day or so. Did not make it out on the water today, so everything we're getting is kind of reports we've gotten from other folks. I know that yesterday while we were out there and we were looking at the ship itself, we could see waves on the hull where we know that heat got in there, and where you could actually see now on some of the angles where the plating that makes up that hull material is attached to the ribs and the substructure of the ship. It's like more defined now. You can see it because that sheeting that made up the side of the ship took so much heat, it kind of distorted that. And the big question that everybody seems to be having now and around town is how is that going to affect operations going forward? Has the lifting lugs been compromised? Will that affect the operation? I don't know, but I can assure you that they're going to have people to get out there and take a look at it and try to determine if additional bracing is going to be necessary, if maybe they need to change the plan. They'll look at that, and first and foremost, the people that are working out here, their safety is paramount, and that goes without saying. Nothing needs to happen out here that's going to cost anybody an injury. I think those guys are well aware of that. Hopefully, maybe even more so now since the fire, and understanding how quickly that fire kind of got away from them. There's probably some protocols that maybe weren't followed or maybe weren't in place at the time, because we understand the fire started earlier in the day and they thought they had it out, but maybe they'll change their protocols now, and anytime there is a fire, we will respond with everything we've got until we know that the fire's out. Maybe that happens. It's I wouldn't say this is the worst case scenario, but it's pretty close to a worst case scenario. Seeing the ship still seems to be structurally sound. From what we've seen, it hadn't collapsed in the fire. And the next question is, if they continue cutting on it and lifting on it, is that going to be a problem? And if so, what are the engineering solutions going to be to fix that problem? Well, I've got one in here that says they can't hear. You guys are having a hard time hearing me out there? Somebody let me know. I'm guessing from what we're saying, maybe turn up the volume. Maybe that's the solution. No, you can't hear. Wow, what is going on with the microphone there? Well, maybe if I get a little closer, maybe that helps the situation. We'll see. We don't have an external mic, so what we're doing is working off the phone. And this is the ocean. This is the Atlantic Ocean behind us, and the water is breaking. So there is a little background noise. Apologize for that. The wind's blowing. It's weather. We can't stop it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got an incoming tide here. Well, we're just kind of looking. I'm going to kind of look out here and just let you guys know what we see. From our vantage point right here, we see it looks like the safety boat's out there, as well as we're seeing one environmental boat. You know, when Section 7 was being cut out here, they had a flotilla of environmental boats out here. Every day we'd see at least 8, sometimes it'd be more than that, out on the site. And here recently, we have only seen 4 actual environmental boats working the site. We don't know if that's because after Section 7 left, they no longer felt the need to have those additional resources available. Maybe they sent the crews home, pulled the boats out of the water, not sure. But we know now from what we've seen, there's a lot of debris out in the water and a lot of nasty debris. Burnt plastics and those kind of things are not the kind of stuff you want to have washing up on the beach. You'd hope that they'd be able to get as much of that as quickly as they could out of the water. So maybe we'll see an additional response on environmental craft. It does look like they have stopped flowing water into the ship. The master stream that we saw yesterday that was spraying water into that stern section has seemed to stop. So maybe they've gotten that thing cooled down to where they feel they don't necessarily need to put water on it. Now, you know, yesterday we did see people on board the Golden Ray. So they were putting personnel on top of the ship, I guess, to start their preliminary inspections and evaluations of the hull conditions there. All right, I've got some questions here about what gauge steel is used on the hull. Well, the ship was built in Korea, so it's the actual the specifications actually on the ship, from what we're told, were in millimeters. But to put them in terms that I could understand, the guy that explained it to me was the area below the weather deck is going to be a little bit thicker than an inch for the most part, and it kind of thickens out a little bit, maybe a little more into some of the hull area, and then starting back up the ship, the plating tapers down, where it starts from about maybe 3/4 of an inch, and then it goes to 1/2 inch, and then to basically like 1/4 of an inch. It makes up what would be the down sloping side of that ship and the top. It's actually relatively thin material, and really they're just to protect the vehicles that it carries from the elements. It really has no structural value other than that. And that's probably one of the reasons why you see such a large area on those lifting lugs going across those areas, that part of the ship, to spread that lift across the whole top of the section. Because it's not, if you just weld it onto a small piece, it would naturally just rip the metal and rip it right out of there. So that's it's pretty thin. As it gets to the top, it really starts to thin up, and it gets pretty thin. Yeah, I'm sorry about that ocean out there. It's going to be a little louder, but at least we're not on the boat jumping around and moving around today. So you guys got that kind of working for you. Well, and we got a comment here about the crew that's out here working, and you know, the crew that's assembled out here, the guys that are out here working on this thing are probably some of the best in the world, no doubt about it. You think about the skill set necessary, welding, guys that are climbing out there, pipe fitters, machinists, all those things that make up. It's a special skill set just to have those people. Now you add that they've got to do those jobs in a marine environment where you're working on something that's moving around, and you're having to deal with weather considerations that you might not normally have to contend with, as say if you were welding in an industrial setting on the land. Special set of skills that make up these guys, and they've got some of the best in the business. There's no doubt about that. If there's anything, maybe the plan has not been quite what we thought it was going to be. There's no other way to put it. For what we were originally told from the salvage time it was going to take, the ongoing problems of the VB. And the VB was not originally built for ship salvage. It was built to work in the oil industry in the Gulf of Mexico, for heavy lifting, picking up broken pieces and decommissioning oil rigs and that kind of thing. That's what this machine was actually designed to do. So they're kind of asking it to do a job that maybe it wasn't originally designed to do. And that in itself is probably, there's going to be some growing pains that are associated with that. But the plan itself it's been snake bit from the start. The plan does work. We've seen it work. They've taken away 4 sections of the ship, but it hasn't. The plan has not gone to what was originally pitched. And we've certainly seen, if you've watched the videos, you've seen that the BD had some problems. It's had issues, and the process itself has had issues with broken chains and delays, ship construction that maybe they weren't planning for. The chain didn't track right through. Particularly when we talked about Section 7 and the amount of time it took and the trouble that they went through trying to get that piece separated from the rig. Yeah, well, again, sorry about the noise. What you're hearing is the waves that are kind of just rolling in here. We're right off of, there's 50 feet and then the beach here at St.simons. So we are getting a little bit of the natural environment, and we can hear from here. They have stuff powered up out there. We can hear the BB running. So probably generators or something, but they've got, it's operational right now. We can hear the sound and know that they're out there, and they're I'm sure working on stuff. I'm just kind of looking through here. We got somebody that says 32 millimeters on the thickness of that. So yeah, that probably sounds about right. How's the fishing? You know, I haven't been fishing yet. Fishing has been they fishing has been decent here on St. Simons, and that's a good thing. We hope that continues. We will we will be starting fishing. I'm a shark fisherman. Love the shark fish, and we're right at when I like to start getting out on the water and do that. And maybe we'll bring some of that to you while we're out here on the ship one night. We might take a rod, put it down, and see what we can catch. But as far as an indicator on environmental concerns on the fishing, yeah, we're seeing that. The shrimpers that are working now, the shrimpers are having to work offshore here. State law does not allow them to really get into up along the beaches for towing and trawling until late the summer. And the Department of Natural Resources usually sets that date when it's going to open. But you know, the shrimp boats that are out there working are catching shrimp. But I have talked to someone, and they have been catching debris offshore 3 miles. I had a couple of guys who told me here recently that they had one of their trawls was spoiled because of a piece of debris that got hung in the net. And here, shrimpers are required to tow sewn into their net a turtle excluder, which that device kicks the turtle out of the net if he comes in there, so that turtles don't drown. But unfortunately, if you have a piece of debris that covers the grating that catches or kicks the turtles out, if you have a bumper or a door panel that makes its way down the net and hangs over that grating, every bit of the catch on that trawl goes right out of the net as well. So that's been a concern for some of the guys fishing out here. They're catching some of that debris, and it's a pretty good ways offshore. Right now, they can't legally fish inside of 3 miles. So some of that debris has made it out that far from the wreck site here. We don't really know what kind of damage has been done as a result of the heat and the process. I am not a structural engineer by any means, but I know that if you take, for instance, the World Trade Center, when they were attacked with the jets, it wasn't the aircraft that caused the buildings to collapse and that large loss of life, as much as the resulting fire heated up the steel structure to the point it failed. And pretty much everyone is going to remember that. And those buildings came down as a result of that collapse of the steel structures. I don't know. I can only speculate that here this fire probably reached temperatures approaching 2,000 degrees. And what kind of effect that would have on that metal. I mean, just from visually looking at it, we can see warping, and you can tell that metal is taking a lot of heat. And the question again I have is radiant heat, as that surface heated up during the fire, was any of that heat energy transferred to the VB-10,000 in a manner that caused damage to that vessel or the superstructure that makes up that DB. It's got to be a big concern. I'm sure that they're going to go over it and check everything. It have to be protocol. Follow something along. Get some guys out there take a look at that and try to figure out if any damage has been done to the vessel or to the VB. J.R. Langwell, it's good to see you joining us here. J.R. has a radio show up in Atlanta on WFRG, and we are part of that program every Wednesday. We'll be back joining J.R. Tomorrow. J.R. was off last week up for an event in Cincinnati, and he is back, and we'll be back on with J.R. Tomorrow evening. That is pretty good. We look forward to that. Is the person in the Coast Guard who made the choice to go with these salvers and this method still in charge? I'm assuming so. You know, I don't know where this decision was made, but I can assure you that the admiral in this area falls in the Miami sector. I think that's Admiral Jones with the Coast Guard in Miami. I'm sure that he would have an answer for that question. We haven't made that call yet. It might be for a good interview to have him on and talk to him about what's going on here as this process has evolved. You know, we've talked about the process, and while it's neat and it's moving, you know, was this the right decision? This plan, in hindsight, was it the right decision? And I think a lot of people now are second guessing that decision, and to be able to say that this operation works, it'll work well everywhere. There's so many variables that go into it, and they got to go into trying to factor something. One of the things that's just really crazy here is how fast the current moves in and out of this sound. You know, we can expect to have at least a 4-knot current, sometimes a little more than that, with the way this water is. All this as this water dumps in between St.simons and Jekyll, it has to pass through here, and it's like a restricting point. It just kind of pushes it in and compresses that current as it's dumping out of this entire estuary and this river system that runs back inland from here. And as the tide rushes in, and then it rushes back out, and it's a very small window that the tide, the current, actually slows down, and that's like particularly like when we would see the gates open for on the north and south gate to move equipment in or out, or move the VD in or out. That's typically done just at a high tide or at a low tide when the current's not running. And of course, during the fire, it was right about mid-tide when all that was going on. So they had a lot of current. There were issues with that. But the salvage, the debris, trying to manage the debris in that kind of current with the system that they have on it, it seems to not be as effective as they originally thought it would be. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way the current runs through this place. Maybe if you didn't have that kind of current, you didn't have those kind of tidal influences, it might be a great system. But one of those variables I think needs to be considered going ahead. If this event happens again, that's got to be one. Tidal current, wind conditions. Needs to really have some serious calculations about, is this the right method for this type of salvage? I'm not sure right now. There's a lot of people, particularly a lot of residents here on St.simons, that are really beginning to second guess it. What caused the fire? From what we understand, they had a team down and they were cutting a valleyway for the chain because the chain was not tracking like they wanted it. And they were trying to get the chain to kind of track away from some stronger structural components in order to help facilitate the speed. If you guys remember during the videos, they were making some pretty good time on this cut, and they were doing some cutting in there, and that's what happened. Maybe some slag from the cutting, it dropped down on something. A small fire started, and things just got bad from there, and it ended up with the inferno that we had on Friday afternoon. I got to tell you guys that are in here, and I see that we got there's 144 of you guys that are in here now. We really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to check in with us. We had no idea when we started this that this kind of interest would be generated watching a ship getting cut up. But as the daily reports have progressed and the saga has it's been a drama just so many different things going on out here. We're certainly glad that we started doing it for nothing more than history. This is a big part of the history of coastal Georgia and this port. And we hope that maybe by documenting the way we have on YouTube, that these videos will maybe help in the future as decisions are made on future salvage. And heck, there may be some young guys, some engineers that are sitting in a classroom or something right now looking and watching some of these videos to understand this salvage operation, and they'll be able to apply that knowledge later on. And we think that is an awesome thing and something we're proud of, what we're doing. We wish sometimes that we could get you guys some better access, some better video that we have seen in the past. As you guys have followed the channel, my saga with drone flights. We're doing the best we can with what we're allowed to work with, but we're very happy to try to bring it to you. Deborah's asking about the color going from blue to white. You know, I tell you what we've seen on the hull side, on the red side, where that bottom paint is, and bottom paint on the ship's nasty stuff. It's basically labeled as a pesticide. It's put on vessels to retard the growth of marine creatures such as barnacles and oysters, and on wooden boats it keeps wood boars from getting stabbed, wood boars from getting in there and chewing up the ships. But it's nasty stuff. And what we've seen on the hull side, where a lot of that fire was yeah, there's definite. You can see where that paint is cooked on the thing, and it is white underneath it. So we know that that paint's probably crinkled up. Probably a good bit of it got washed down into the water, which unchecked is a problem. You don't want bits and pieces of stuff that's engineered to stop marine growth from being washed into the ocean. That should be common sense. We get it, we understand. But a pretty good bit of that paint that was along the hull section of the Golden Ray did get blistered, and it's off, and it's pretty nasty. I will agree with you, Mark Bass. This is a ship show. You know, it's never lacking on content, my friend. I can tell you that.
Largest salvage operation in the world.
I'm not used to seeing them out in my life preserver. Hey, yeah, that's typically, you know, if we're out on the boat, we're out there alone, and we found that life, wearing your PFD on the water it's not something. It's one of those things. Hey, I wish I would have. That's not the time. So we keep that on with us. I've had several friends that I wish they'd had some on. We've lost some good guys around here that didn't have one on at the wrong time. What's next for the channel after the ship? Let's get the ship out of here and we'll discuss it. Let's not put the cart before the horse. So we're kind of happy with what we've been able to bring you guys. As far as, I've never considered myself a photographer, a videographer, or a journalist of any means, but I've kind of become one here on this YouTube channel, and we're really happy to be able to do that. It gives us a great deal of enjoyment to know that you guys are finding it informative and tuning in as religiously as you guys are to be a part of the channel. Again, we really appreciate that. The length of the time to complete the inspections, I have no idea. And I am of the mindset, I don't care how long it takes. if that's what it takes to keep these guys working out here safe. You take as much time as you guys need, catch your breath, figure it out, and get it right. And I think that goes without saying. I don't think anybody should rush into these inspections. Whatever, if they got to take samples and send them off to a lab, completely understand, get it done. Just let's from what we saw Friday and how bad that was, and how quickly that really could have gotten just been a horrible event for guys if something. I don't even want to think about it, but let's moving forward. Let's make sure, let's take care of these guys out here. They're making a tremendous sacrifice to be out here. I think that's the least we can do is give them the benefit of a very thorough inspection and correct whatever insufficiencies they find out there. Let's get those straightened out and get ready to move ahead. When they start lifting, and this is just kind of going through my mind, if there is structural problems, those have got to be corrected. I mean, could you imagine that section cut and it not being structurally sound now because of the heat and it being lifted, and then there's a failure, and the part of the ship swings down and maybe hits the BD, then could cause a collapse of the rest of the structure. You just don't really want to think about those problems that could arise. And it's safe to say that they've got some issues out there now, and they're trying to work through them. The thing that we really hate to see right now is like what we saw yesterday, and that being the amount of debris that we're seeing coming off there from that burnt plastic and the bits and pieces, and where it's going to end up. They collected quite a bit out on the beach today, but you don't know where that stuff's going. You don't know where it's going to be rattling around down in the water column and stuff that isn't floating, where it's going to end up. And that's really probably to me, it's the worst part of the event that happened on Friday. I understand the delays. We've dealt with delays. We're getting pretty doggone good at dealing with delays out here, but we know that safety is paramount. These guys need to have a work environment that is as safe as possible. Just there's just no way around it. What they're doing out there it's dangerous work. Yeah, we don't know how much of the cargo burned up. We could see that fire was really burning out off of that right hand side, that lower quadrant over there, which I guess would be the starboard quadrant, that down around the chine area, was really blowing out of there. But coming back over here towards this port side of it was any of that cargo involved in the fire, and is there still fire load possible in there? Is there enough fuel to sustain another problem should it arise? I don't know. I'm sure that they'll have some people looking at it. I'm sure they'll have people looking at the fire suppression system that's supposedly constructed on board there. Was it engineered adequately? And maybe not. Did not perform properly. I don't know, but I'm sure they'll take a look at this thing going forward and try to come up with some solutions to ensure the safety of the crews out there. Bushy Tail wants to know about any changes to the bars out here, sandbars. The wreck itself is acting probably as a natural groin. On some of that south end, there might be some sand that's accumulating out there, but all it takes really is one storm here to move this sand around. The place gets so much wind, and again, you talk about how fast the currents run in here. Nothing seems to stay stable. That's another concern for me. It's continually concerned is the stability of the ship. Unified Command keeps assuring us that the ship's stable, it's not moving or anything. But I know from past experience out here that nothing is permanent in these sands the way they shift around.
Daily.
So that's got to be a concern. The longer the ship sits out there, first of all, the more it fills up with silt, the heavier it gets, and there's more of a possibility of it settling more into the soft sand that makes up the bottom of the sound area out here. So a big concern, and yeah, it's a constant. These bars constantly move around out here. It's almost like they're alive. Alfred, good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you're here to be a part of the channel. Thank everybody for being a part of this and joining us and kind of taking a look at what's going on here. Yes, brother, you have a standing invitation. I want you on my boat. Come on, I'm ready to have you. Hey, John, you know, wherever the channel goes after the ship is out of here, I'm sure it'll be something associated with the boat. The Minorcan Mullet is going to continue it on YouTube. I don't know if we're going to have this kind of content on it. It's never a dull moment out here, but we'll continue with something. Hopefully you guys will find entertaining, and at least maybe 3 or 4 of you might tune in once in a while to let us know that you kind of like what we're doing. Well, we got some ideas, and we'll come up with something that will hopefully be entertaining. Probably won't be as frequent. I doubt you'll see me on every day, but you never know. You never know. Well, you can see out here, kind of looking out here across the site, environmental boat is still out there. One of the bear cubs, and the bear cubs are those smaller tugs that they use to move around the environmental barriers, and they have a small monitor. I say small because we saw some large monitors, water monitors out here on some of those tugs and some of the fire equipment that they had out here. But we see one of those off in the distance. They're kind of moving around. One environmental boat, maybe a second environmental boat. That may be a crew boat that shuttles the crew from the DD back and forth to the resort that they're staying at over at Epworth Center. We see one of those out there. But other than that, the site's really kind of quiet. Haven't seen anybody on top of the ship. I say that and somebody will come up and start doing a dance on it now. But it's obvious some things have been going on. We see the block again. That block was cleaned. That northwest block has been cleaned. And I guess that was part of the inspection. And we saw the barge come in, the maintenance barge come in yesterday. I'm pretty sure it's still on the other side of the DB, probably between the pontoons. And those guys are starting to use that barge to kind of go through and start their inspections and look at the problem areas. Well, guys, we've been on here for about 39 minutes, and has Jekyll, I'll answer this one, has Jekyll been impacted by any of the nasty gunk from the raid? Yes. Got some reports today. Quite a bit of burnt plastic debris was found up on Jekyll Island. I had some pictures that were forwarded to me today, and there was quite a bit of debris that was found out on there. Yes, yes, and yes. Everything out here is finding bits and pieces of debris from the Golden Ray. You got to keep in mind, when that fire was burning, there was so much water being pumped into that thing from both ends, as well as from any area where they could get a hose, a monitor hose in there. They were flushing that water in. Of course, they're flushing it in. It's got to flush back out. So that plastic and bit pieces and stuff is just getting flushed right back out. And the environmental barrier is open. I'm looking right now, and we can see that the barrier on the north gate is completely open, and on the south gate, I can see that the barrier is stretched back over to the other set of pylons over there. So yeah, the gate's open, so the environmental barrier really is not protecting the environment. It's just kind of a do not cross line for me right now. But yeah, it's opened up, and it is what it is right now. And we're having to take a bite of this. Yes, we are filming. We're here from St.Simons. Again, I keep forgetting that some of you guys weren't here when we started. We're on St.Simons. We're down at the south end of St.Simons. Graciously, being hosted in a beautiful residence right here, overlooking the wreck site. Probably the best seat on St. Simons to come out and watch. But we're here, and that is Jekyll Island that is in the background. That is the north end of Jekyll Island. And you can kind of, Jekyll Island kind of, it goes out this way on the ocean side, and then the beach kind of comes back around on the inland side back to the Jekyll Island fishing pier, for any of you guys that are familiar with Jekyll, and then on back around into the river that makes up that south end of the estuary. Yeah, we have quite a bit of tide here. Our tides usually fluctuate between 7 and 9 feet up and down. And if you're asking if anything can be welded underwater, I can assure you they have some guys assembled out here that would be very good at that job.
Divers.
Yeah, they have some very good divers that are working this. They've been working at the site since pretty much day one. And I'm sure that welding is another skill set that they possess should it be necessary underwater. Well, hey y'all, we're coming up and we've been on here for about 45 minutes. That's probably enough for today. We'd like to thank y'all for joining us. We're going to ask you that if you haven't done it yet, click on that subscribe button. I'm not going to charge you a thing to do it. Hey, we love getting the comments. We like to see where you guys are thinking and where you're from, what you're thinking about. Comments on the job, thoughts on the job. We'd love to get those. Hey, most of all, we want you guys to stay safe out there, and we want you guys out there to stay safe. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see y'all tomorrow from the boat.